Welcome to the Journey of Now with myself, Karis.
And Nick.
And together we run our practice called the Journey of Now.
A blend of bespoke coaching, human design, and medicine for the soul.
So this season we're focused on a non-BS approach to spirituality, self-development, and expansion of the self in the most holistic and sustainable ways possible.
Helping you cultivate presence, step into your power, and dive into possibility. Welcome to your Journey of Now.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Journey of Now. Starring Karis, Nick, and Chloe the Pug.
Are we going with that?
Yeah, we're going with that.
Oh, okay, cool.
I've always wanted to do a voiceover. We don't have a lot of time, so we're going to get to the point.
Quick. Yep.
So, today, today I had a client, an interesting bloke that, an interesting guy that has come from a militant background, really rigid in his approach to life and business and all of that. And currently, and work-life balance is non-existent, essentially, where 85% of life is surrounding work, and he's, doing the standard thing of, parent or, the old school patriarchal system where, man sacrifice life through work to make money for family, and that sacrifice is, it's the standard protocol that most millennials have experienced. And the thing that came up today, which was one of the key reasons why, he ventured into this space, which is not necessarily, spiritual in nature, but just to work through and navigate the immense anger that he is holding in his system. And one of the things that's been coming up with that anger, where it has actually boiled over quite often, is, when putting two kids to bed. And it's quite interesting because, working, really long days, getting home at 7 o'clock and wanting your kids to be in bed at 7:30 at night.
So is that a rule that his partner said, or is that something that he said that the kids
we're still getting that.
Okay.
But that's what they both live, very busy lives. So both of them, the amount of time that they have to not only spend with each other, but with their kids is very limited. Mm-hmm. And it's done so obviously through choice, not necessarily circumstance. And the thing, other than looking at the strategy and looking at, how to navigate all of this, it's looking at the emotion and where is it arising and why is there anger? Why are you being frustrated with, kids that are not adhering to the frameworks that you're trying to set because they are seeking intimacy and connection?
It's so interesting with kids though, because, we want that sense of ultimate control in terms of do as I say. Yep. But at the end of the day, your kids can be your biggest teachers or your biggest triggers depending on how much you are working through. And a lot of the time for parents who feel like they have no control over their lives, yep, or are working out of that sense of duty or blah, 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 whatever story you're attached to there, when your kids aren't listening or when you feel unheard, then that anger comes out, because it's the same feeling that you had when you were a child, when you were unheard. And so your kids are always going to replicate the same relationship, yes, that you had as a child. Not always, but they're going to trigger those points. It's like these really sensitive raw spots, and they know exactly where to push and how to do it. And it's not that they do it consciously. They're just looking for love and intimacy and connection.
And that's something that you haven't been giving yourself. And now it's been reflected back to you. So maybe it wasn't given to you. Yeah. And then you have never learned how to give that to yourself because that's something that which has been repressed or suppressed. And now, time is the reason and the validation behind this not being made a priority. And now we look at control.
And so it's really interesting because people will come to us and be like, oh, how do I work with my anger? Or the question will be like, I need to heal this thing that is making me angry.
But I don't have enough time and it's really frustrating because nothing is working out for me, or this isn't happening the way that I expect. And then I get frustrated and then I get angry, or I'm trying to get through to my partner and she's just not listening to me.
And
And it's really just this thing of, we get so sucked into the lens in which we are navigating a space. We get so sucked into the narrative and the idea that our point of view is the only view, it is the correct view, it is the truth, it is what it is, with that perspective. And in that perspective lies the limitation.
I would actually like to speak to a different aspect of anger, because I find that, when people say anger, they're not actually meaning anger. It's just the first thing that they can reach for. And I love how Brené Brown puts it. She says, anger is a secondary emotion. And I'm going to read something from her book, Atlas of the Heart. But, for me, genuinely what I found is with anger, people who don't know how to sit with it or even name it, or anger is the first thing that comes to the mind, because it's something that feels uncomfortable and that you have no control of. So it's easy to go, I'm angry, instead of really sitting with it and going, actually I might not be angry. My response in terms of how I'm reacting to people might feel angry, but it's a protective mechanism because I'm not comfortable in what I'm feeling. And whether it's sadness or grief or loneliness, it's like that bear that's, you've gone to this bear that's really rageful and seems angry,
Exactly.
But it's actually just, it's hurt and it's sad.
And it's, to be honest with you, I feel like adding on to that, the anger ends up being the armor that protects the innermost vulnerable parts of self. And we are, here's an interesting way of looking at it, we are angry at ourselves for not allowing ourselves to be intimate with life, intimate with ourselves, intimate with the experience. And coming back to kids will show you this in so many different ways, and they will niggle and they don't stop, because this is what they hear. They're just literally wanting love. They are just wanting attention. They are just wanting to be seen.
Yeah, even in our own parenting journey with our youngest, my God, this child has such intense emotions, and the level of anger that he experiences, but also the permission that he gives himself to feel that level of anger. I feel like when I watch that, I'm like, oh, you know what, I feel like we did something right, because he's experiencing the full spectrum of it and he feels safe to do that. And
That's important.
It's fucking intense, I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yeah, because we had one for like 2.5 hours, which was just like, good Lord.
But at the same time, what I've also seen in that expression of anger, it's traditionally before it was the thing of like, time out, I'm going to punish you for feeling this and for reacting and for throwing and for doing the things. And now the perspectives change, and I really appreciate it, because instead of time out, it's about time in. I can't regulate you when you are unregulated. So how about I find a way that we can connect, and then afterwards, then we can go through like, okay, what was the thing that was making you angry?
There we go.
And then we go into, oh, no, here was the thing.
So then you can, maybe find the root cause, if there is one, or maybe it was just an emotion that was being experienced in your system, which is also a possibility. Sometimes we just have anger that arises in our system.
Can I just reflect back on that? I'm just really proud of that response as well, because I watch it and then I'm like, holy shit. It feels very healing to my inner child to witness the space that you're able to hold for our child, and just the permission he gives himself to feel the full spectrum of it.
Yeah.
And, afterwards you'll feel this like relief. And I know that as he grows into adulthood, he's never going to, or he might, but like, he's never going to feel the same shame or discomfort or judgment.
Around his emotions.
Yeah.
Around feeling.
Around his sensitivity and how big it feels in his system,
Shit can feel big. It's supposed to feel big.
Yeah.
Why do we try to minimize something that is a part of ourselves? And in turn, when we minimize that, we are not just minimizing the emotion, we are minimizing our experience.
Exactly.
And I think this is like the permission slip here. Be it that you are a parent, be it that you are not a parent. I mean, that is irrelevant in this moment. But we have all had parents in some way, shape, or form. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. Or individuals that gave birth to us and foresaw that, you are able to really look at yourself in this moment and, give yourself permission to be angry. Give yourself permission to feel. Give yourself permission to not necessarily having to find the root cause behind that emotion initially. Just start off with the permission slip of, I'm overwhelmed right now. I am angry. I'm allowed to be angry. I'm allowed to go smash a pillow in. I'm allowed to go and scream at the top of my lungs. And be it that you need to sit in a car or scream into a blanket or whatever the case is, that's not a bad thing. That is also you maybe embodying that repressed child-like version of yourself and actually giving them permission to say, hey, it's okay, let's feel this together. Here's a way to actually get this out. And I'm here. I am nurturing you. This is a safe space. You have green lights. Go ahead. Get it out. Feel what you need to feel. And when we come down, when that wave is peaked and it begins to subside, we can then start looking at, where did that come from? Why was I maybe so triggered? What was this? Where was the sensation? Was it actually anger or was it something else? Was there something underneath this? And anger was just trying to protect me.
Because anger is that it's action oriented, and if you're quite passive in your approach to anger, it's also speaking to the relationship you have with anger. Anger comes in as the protector, but it also comes in as that catalyst for the thing that you need to do. That was the thing that really shifted my relationship with anger. If we look in nature, there is a healthy aggression with things, and it's something to let people know when boundaries have been crossed or when there's a violation that happens within our space towards us, or it's just or just within our personal space, or when we witness injustice or something happening to someone else. There's a response that happens, and what we do with it then is...
That's actually what matters. It's what you're doing with that response.
We've learned to swallow it. We've learned to put it down and to push it away.
And then where does it sit in the body?
Exactly. So
what does the anger eventually turn into?
And I'm speaking from my own experiences, even though I stopped, I in my mind, I was like, oh, I'm not angry anymore. My physical body didn't stop being angry. And I carried that anger in my body for a really long time. And this is the thing when you have autoimmune, because your body takes that anger that hasn't been expressed, or you haven't felt safe enough to move through that catalyst, and then it sits in your system and it makes you sick and exhausted.
Exactly.
Because it doesn't just go away.
No, it doesn't.
Just because you tell yourself that you're not angry anymore doesn't mean that it's not there.
And also just like I know you're going to read a couple of powerful perspectives around anger. The thing is, don't just expect yourself to let this go in one go. Through just touching on my own experience, the amount of pent up anger or repressed anger I had, within my own, circumstances, and even just towards myself, which would then come across as controlling of how I'm eating my food, to punching things, to screaming. Well, I mean, a lot of different ways in which I would not try and repress this anger, because I had repressed myself, and the anger was trying to protect me, but it was because of other underlying things that I just didn't give permission for, because I didn't know that there was space for that. I didn't know if it was normal. I didn't know if this was allowed. The frameworks and the programs and the patterning that I had undergone or had experienced as a kid, that just limited the lens. And it's really, over the last few years where I've sat with anger and being able to really honor what it was doing for my system, but also saying, hey, in this moment, just coming back to giving myself permission to really feel it and to express it in a healthier way. And the more that I allowed myself to express it and found ways to get it out, the more that I started finding the why and the root behind the anger. It wasn't, why am I angry about this? It's just feeling the anger, and then it would arise.
You know, it's easier to say I'm angry rather than I'm betrayed and I feel hurt. Or it's
actually
way
finding
easier.
the words.
So
finding the words behind what the feeling is.
Recognizing that like anger is a secondary emotion. It's not the first thing. You know, it's the thing that we reach for because it's easy to name.
And again, like because you're experiencing other emotions, this one comes up to protect you.
Exactly.
And all you're doing is you're trying to protect yourself, because again, it comes down to anger comes in when a boundary has been crossed, and be it you've crossed it within yourself or something external has crossed that boundary. It is coming up.
Yeah.
Okay, what are the other two points?
So she says, that this is Brené Brown, Atlas of the Heart, and she says, anger masks emotions that are more difficult to name and to own. And just as an indicator in our car tells us to pull over and check things out, anger is a very effective emotional indicator light that tells us to pull over and check things out. And the third thing that she says is anger in response to experiencing or witnessing injustice, pain, and struggle. It can be a powerful catalyst for change, but by definition, a catalyst sparks change. It is not the change. And so this is why you have to look at what your relationship with anger is, okay? And how you are, what you're doing with it, because it can either be the medicine or the poison.
Exactly.
So that's all I want to leave you with. And make it very simple. It's just a thing of like looking at what your relationship with anger looks like. One thing that was easy for me as well is to look at like a visual perspective of anger. It's like, what does my anger look like? Does it look like, and how does it come out? Because so the way that my anger came out, it just depends on the situation. And also you have to look at
your context.
Yeah, your context. So
maybe it comes across as a person with a he or she passive or passive aggressive, or however with a specific mannerism. Maybe it even comes across as an element. For me personally, when I saw anger, it came across as either this big black overarching shadow that was trying to consume everything,
or that red thing,
literally like pools of lava.
Really?
That's how I would feel it, and feel that at like the bottom of my belly. That's where it would be sitting the whole time.
You know, that's so interesting, because if I looked at my anger was this passive man that wasn't doing anything, that just stood there and like smiled. And so that was my relationship with like the good girl or whatever, or like the good person. So like that could maybe just give you an indication of like where it comes from. Look at a visual representation of what your anger looks like.
Personify it. And so first step would be try and personify it and get a read on like what is the personality or the mannerisms of this anger. And then from there,
name it. Because it's not just anger.
Yeah. What are you trying to protect? What are the mannerisms or the things? Like, what are the characteristics? So maybe, let's say, it is a wounded masculine that is passive.
But then how nature. Do you get yourself out of that, like, passive thing? It's like, for me, I need to work out. I needed to get angry. I needed to feel my anger in healthier ways instead of swallowing it and holding it inside my body. Because that's what kept me sick.
And it's the permission that you're giving yourself to feel it. So the next step would be, once you've got some form of awareness that it is not just anger, that anger is the secondary functional emotion here, and you've got maybe it's shame, guilt, fear, whatever the case is, or maybe it's a specific event where those emotions have arisen, or betrayal, then looking at, intentional ways in where you can express yourself, which would be, let's say, working out.
For you, I think stillness is something that is medicine. And so, like, everybody's going to have something different.
So try a couple of different, approaches and see where you find the most, I don't want to say reprieve, but you feel a sense of ease once you've done it. It might be really difficult initially, but you'll feel everything subside. It's kind of like there's this big bubble that is popped, and then eventually everything just sits. I actually
see it in terms of like, if you look at it, if you personify it, and like for me, if it's passive, then I need to do something active, hot and like that brings that fire in. And for you, you saw that love,
Mine
and you
is
saw
active.
that thing. So you
Mine
actually
is
need to
moving.
find the water, the stillness that brings the
and
calm
that's what
to
I
that
do.
fire.
You know, as you're saying that today, I woke up and I was angry. And I wasn't.
Why?
I just
I'm
woke up
just-
and I was angry.
Shit,
So
okay.
I don't know why I was angry. And I sat and I did my morning meditation. And the thing is, like now it's the thing of going inwards. Went into it. And it wasn't the anger, again, it was the shame. It was the underlying shame on, you know, whatever I've been navigating at this moment. And that shame just needed to be met with compassion and saying,
Yeah.
hey, it's okay. You are choosing better now. You're doing X, Y, and Z. And just allowing myself to feel consciously going into the primary emotion and knowing the root cause already. Not that you have to have that, just giving yourself compassion or that version of yourself compassion
Yeah.
and sitting with it. Like you literally will feel like you want to get out of your skin for maybe a couple of moments, but the longer you sit with it, you notice it subsides. And then it doesn't start coming out passively or actively through how you're interacting with people, experiences, the work that you're doing throughout the day or throughout the week, because you've addressed it. And when it arises again, it's just taking those 5-10 minutes again for yourself to sit with it.
And also, you know, when you name something, it isn't as scary. At my youngest son's school, what they do is they have a chart, and it's got all the emotions on there. And if you're feeling that emotion, what are the things you need to do? So there's a wheel of choice, and there's a thing with the emotions on there. And if you even need to print something out or have that on your phone where it's like, oh my gosh, I'm feeling this, or no. In your mind, sometimes you need to have that there, and it is so helpful, even for us as adults. Or we like to think that we're adults, but we're actually just grown children who haven't healed from a lot of the things that we experience. So having something like that is a very helpful way to name something, and then it's less scary and it doesn't have this hold on you.
And then you see as the beauty of that, as you're saying that, now you're taking accountability, you're taking responsibility, be it that it was something that someone else did to you, it no longer holds that charge. As you start doing this, you start accessing forgiveness.
Yeah.
Because you're forgiving yourself. Forgiveness isn't about forgiving the other, it's forgiving yourself.
Yeah.
So that being said, you know, I hope there was a nugget or two or three or an idea or perspective shift that could help you on your journey. And the invitation, as always, is to, you know, go through your week and maybe look at, you know, what has been going really well for you, what hasn't been going so well for you, and how can you improve that as you are venturing on your journey of now. Thank you for listening.
Have a good week.